All right, everybody. Welcome back to the What the Fuck Am I Doing with My Life? No, just kidding. Welcome back to the Brian Escow Show. I've got my friend Ridge here, who I didn't know until we were about to do the recording that he wasn't going to have his his camera on, which is totally fine by me. But Ridge is a bit of a mystery guest. So we're going to, a Twitter friend, of course, going to find out what Ridge is all about. I have a little bit of a concept of where he's coming from politically, but we'll confirm that. Ridge, it's nice to have you. Welcome, buddy.
Thanks for having me, Brian.
Absolutely. I guess I would be negligent podcast host if I didn't say, for anyone listening, go ahead and like and share this episode and subscribe wherever you're listening. If you want to give me that coveted boost, the audience boost, the organic growth, nothing like it. So where are you? Are you, speaking of organic growth, are you living on the farmlands somewhere in America growing your own shit?
Yeah, I live in the Ozarks.
You really are.
Yeah. I know. I grew up on the West Coast. I was actually born in Oregon, lived in Alaska, California, and my stepfather, the man who raised me, his family was in this area, so we moved here. I was probably middle school, 6th grade, something like that, and
And what was
went
that
back
like?
to Alaska.
Was that very different?
It's very different. Oregon liberal. My mother was kind of a liberal hippie. She married an ex-cop from South Texas. So it was culture clash before we ever got here, but it was strange when I got here. It's just, if you grow up on the coast and then there's woods everywhere, and it was different.
So did that have an effect on your political development, would you say?
And sometimes I wonder. I think you tend to get more, conservative as you get older. But I still think I wouldn't call myself a conservative or a Republican, and I think that's where part of the big issue is, because I don't think I'm the only one. I think that's a majority of people. We're just stuck with two parties that I like some ideas, but they both just take things too far sometimes, and I don't think they listen to us. So I mean,
So are you kind of a libertarian then? That's the third way for a lot of people who say, hey, look, I like the freedoms of the Democrats socially, and I like the, I don't know, something yada, yada, yada from conservatives, property rights, let's say.
Right, sure.
That's the right one to choose. So let's have it both ways, minimize the government in both cases, and be libertarians. Is that kind of how you roll?
I've never called myself a libertarian, really, but it's probably closer than either of the other ones. Socially, I am pretty liberal. I was a young parent, and I think the government has gotten way too big, too corrupt. All the things, and it's both sides. That's what I think bothers most Americans is there's not this fits perfectly. I think it's really strange if one fits perfectly, because there's just bad ideas on both sides.
Right.
And we need better options.
And every cleaner system with less corruption, perhaps, at the very least. Maybe we can start there.
Yeah, I think we're getting robbed from. I'm not one of the, taxation is theft, although it probably is. But let's just say we accept that system.
But if you're not, then that is kind of the gatekeeping concept for being a legitimate libertarian, right? It's like you pretty much have to believe taxation is outright theft, literally.
Well, I think as a nation that wants to prosper and have nice things, I think we all do have a social responsibility somewhat. To contribute, whether that's just not throwing trash everywhere and being responsible where we throw dangerous stuff.
Right.
And I'll just give you a little background. So I spent a majority of my career doing environmental compliance stuff with large corporations. So a lot of time dealing with the environment, hazardous waste, things like that. But just overall, I think we do have a social responsibility, and we have to kind of share that burden. And I think most people are fine with that, right? We get trash service, we pay a little, our taxes, good schools, if they're good schools, which is a whole other issue. I really there's teachers in my family. My brother and sister-in-law are both 30-year teachers at this point.
Wow.
And it's a broken system. There's good parts, but kids aren't learning skills they need. So if our money's going to the proper things, I think we're all okay with that. If our taxes are being spent ethically, wisely, and we're not, a senator's brother-in-law isn't creating a charity NGO that money gets funneled to, which happens all the time.
Right.
And nobody goes to jail for it. You and me do that. We're sitting in jail, buddy.
Right.
But they get in there, they get rich, they ignore us, and then they keep finding new ways to tax us, especially in California. You know better than anybody.
Right. No, it's beautifully said. Right. And it's almost inspiring. It is inspiring. And that's what that's the best of the left, that tapping into that mindset. But give me a little bit more about your professional background. Didn't you tell me you made some money in equities or something, or crypto?
Yeah, so I'm basically retired now. And so I just I don't really day trade. I have a long-term portfolio, and then I do options, and I look for swing trades, just ways to make money. I love the market.
So what's your educational background?
I went to college, got a degree.
Not that it matters, I suppose.
Yeah,
but I'm just kind of curious, like just trying to get a picture of you.
Yeah, so I was a high school dropout initially. I was a parent at 16.
Wow.
It all worked out great, thankfully. We've got 6 grown adult children now. Wow. Been with my wife 28 years, so it's worked out.
Congratulations.
But thank you. I initially dropped out of school, finally went back, finally went to college, but I didn't do that probably 10 plus years into the environmental safety side of the career, the legal affairs side, because all of a sudden there was only a few places in the country in the early 2000s to get a degree in some type of environmental compliance. You can get environmental science and all that, but not specifically dealing with EPA, your
real
state
technical stuff.
EPAs. Right. So it wasn't necessary until it seemed like just everybody had a degree all of a sudden from somewhere, and that you were being measured against that. It's like, well, so I just eventually went and got my degree, and in that line of profession for decades, it's been certifications, classes, things like that, and that's how you kind of did your education. But then now there's an added layer of you need at least a bachelor's, master's is better, that kind of thing.
Right.
So
you went to school as an adult. Did you do the whole curriculum?
Yeah, everybody
at night or something, or?
So I did my first 2 years I did at a local college here. It was part online classes and then part not. And then I finished my my last 2 years just like a regular college. It was mainly, career focused stuff the last, couple of years.
And those were night classes?
Yeah.
It doesn't even matter.
So
were you working
you can choose.
Right. I'm just trying to get a sense of were you working at the same time, and really? How old were you?
Let's see. I didn't get my degree till probably 10 years ago. So I would have been in mid-30s. I'm mid-40s now.
Okay, cool. I'm just trying because I think you might be kind of familiar with the story that I tell online, which is a true story about my whole narrative. If you're not aware, I went to law school at night while I was working a few years ago. I was 28 when I went back, and 32 when I got the degree. So I can relate. So it's interesting. Cool.
Yeah, and the companies I worked with supported
it. More.
So yeah, I mean, that was pretty much it. They had a really good hybrid schedule you could choose from. Nice. There's a lot of them that were online. Professors you could text; they text you back within an hour. It's a really good school. I was really fortunate, like I said, but it's just funny how the dynamic changed over the years of. Experience was the big factor initially, but then people show up with the masters that have no idea what they're doing.
Right.
You're competing against them.
And did they add any value, those degrees, to the
no,
workplace?
Not really.
Right.
No, not at all. It was all stayed, and that made it easier too. I didn't get a 4.0 GPA. It was it was high though, because it was all concepts that I've dealt with for years in real life. And, you know, when I first got into safety, I was working in manufacturing. You know, I'm an 18, 19-year-old kid just working 12-hour shifts in a miserable job. And a series of really lucky events and good people basically gave me an opportunity. And I ran with it because
That's awesome, man.
many
That's
hard
America.
work sucks.
Yeah. Yeah. So you're a hardworking guy that worked hard, and I presume it sounds like you've done well for yourself.
Done okay, yeah. You know, from a kid, like I said, I was a high school dropout. I grew up pretty, you know, we weren't like, we'd never go hungry, have the lights shut out, but there, you know, we weren't living the big lifestyle, even in Arkansas. So, uh, you know, and then of course, being a young parent, I worked, you know, waiting tables and doing whatever I could to make money and went to school
Right.
until my senior years when I dropped initially.
Dang.
But, you know,
Close.
you just got to, it just got to the point where I just would have been happy, you know, having a good steady job that I could stay at. You know, I just needed constant income, and it never occurred to me that I could go to college really, or that I could do something besides what I was doing. Like I said, I had good people around me. You know, it was funny enough. The safety director that left where I got my first opportunity, he and I were friendly. I dealt with some safety team stuff in there. It was just, you know, silly stuff. But he's telling me I'm leaving and I should apply for the job. And I left. I was like, man, I don't have a degree. And he's like, neither do I. He said, but you know about this hazardous waste and you know this. And he's like, you should go talk to him. And I had a good relationship with HR, and I got to be the new safety director's assistant and went from there, kind of thing. So really fortunate too. You know, I did work hard. This was pre-internet, was everywhere. So I was studying, you know, 4-inch thick, you know, EPA regulations and OSHA regulations and DOT regs, and, you know, doing it all manually back then.
Yeah, that's actually fascinating. So, okay, getting a sense of who you are, it's great. So I guess my next logical question, and I guess I'll throw them both at you, not that you need to answer both, but this is where I want to go, I guess. I know, okay, a little bit about you. I know your take on taxes. Hey, if they're reasonable and effective, sure. Okay, great. So what is beyond that kind of your political identity, so to speak, and how do you view the current political climate? Take that however you want.
Yeah. So that's a great question, man. I was thinking about it because I thought you might ask something similar, because, you know, your story is fascinating. So, you know, like I said, I think growing up, I was like, we need to rewrite the Constitution. Weed should be legal. You know, just all the
right on
things. And I get
Where's
it.
my pen? Where's my vape?
Right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I have a medical card. So, but I didn't smoke anything for 20 years. I didn't drink for 20 years. And looking at how weed's kind of just pervasive everywhere, it's just, it bugs me a little bit. But overall, you know, I didn't like Obama because I just sensed something was off with him. And there was, I don't know.
Were you a Republican voter most of your life?
I would go back and forth. Yeah, I didn't vote a ton until, trying to think the first time I voted. I don't remember, honestly, but I know I voted in Obama's elections and everyone since. So, and I didn't like Romney or McCain. I didn't like Obama very much. I thought he sounded great. Obama? So that's the thing. And I don't know if you remember, but there was videotapes and pictures and stuff that
the Jeremiah Wright stuff
that got exposed, though. There was even more of that with him just in Muslim garb and his full real name, and that may or may not be from America. That didn't start with Donald Trump. And I don't know that any of that's true, and that doesn't super bother me, other than I think you need to be born here. But
sure,
it was some of his connections to like Bill Ayers and some of the old Weather Underground people and the people funding his Chicago campaigns or his Illinois campaign, I guess it was. It was just a lot of connections. And I'll be honest, I used to, one of the only channels I used to get going to my office, because of the mountains, it was an AM channel with Glenn Beck. And Glenn Beck talked a lot, and he had his charts, and, you know, of course I couldn't see it, but I watched his TV show since. I don't really listen to him much anymore, but, you know, so I don't know. I just got a sense that when somebody is that, he reminds me kind of, well, Gavin Newsom, I would say, is kind of a discount Obama. He's good looking. He's kind of charismatic a little bit, but he does weird things with his hands, and he's always got that shit-eating grin, like he's pulling something over on you.
Right.
And Obama was so smooth. He was such a great speaker. I'll give you that. Great speaker, intelligent, and I think he probably had good intentions. I want to believe he had good intentions. I remember when he was inaugurated. I thought to myself, you know what? This is the president. You know, pray for America. I don't know what's going to happen, but you know, his inaugural address, the first one, was excellent, really inspiring. I was about ready to jump on the Hope and Train bandwagon.
Right.
But the media, the activists, the entire DNC just fell in love and elevated him to just, I don't think you could ever live up to that, but I think a lot of people don't really know all the bad shit he did. People talk about George W. Bush. He makes him look like
that's an interesting point. So the puffery that came with Obama, who's obviously a talented guy and a historic figure, obviously all of that. But the puffery, there's a reaction to that, and it's a bit of a distrust. It adds to the distrust that you might have.
And I think that does that to people. That my mother-in-law, she even sees, she watches a lot of MSNBC and Rachel Maddow, but if she even sees Trump, she just gets viscerally angry.
Yeah.
And
you know, it's funny. I remember at the time, you know, I was just watching CNN and MSNBC at the time. I liked Chris Matthews, you know, so I can imagine I'm however old I was, 18, 20, 22 or something, watching Hardball. And it was probably even later than that. But at some point, Matthews had Trump on. What, when he asked Trump about the original sin?
Oh, I thought you were going to talk about Chris Matthews talking about having a tingling up his leg when Obama got elected.
No.
Sorry.
No worries. He was a funny guy, entertaining, and annoying. You know, he would interrupt his guests and all that shit. He was rude at times, but I dug him. He was so into politics.
We need more of that now. We don't get enough of that anymore. It's
I liked his energy and his interest. He was passionate. And he said to Trump, so it must have been 16, 17, 18, maybe it was during the presidency. But he said, Donald, basically Mr. President or whatever, wasn't that your original sin going after Obama? That's what poisoned. And so at the time, you were listening to Glenn Beck. I was listening to Chris Matthews. And I just came at Trump like, you know, I just don't know what he's on about here. I mean, you know, I'm being told that this is a malicious, dirty, unfair attack. And your other points about Obama sound legitimate to me now. And I'd like to think they would sound legitimate to me even back then, but perhaps they were obscured by this drama about his birth certificate and this and that. I don't know. It seems like those have borne out to be false.
Probably,
But it's so that's a problem. So Trump, man, he was absolutely tied to that. So he was controversial from the beginning.
Right.
And I wasn't able to get over. It took me a long time in studying critical race theory and identity politics to the max. In other words, it took that and then some for me to get over those hurdles. So we're coming at it from different perspectives. It's really important to acknowledge. It's interesting. So tell me more about Obama and your political identity generally.
Well, and I think if anything, Obama kind of radicalized me just against the entire system. You know,
how so?
I've thought a lot about this, and I think it goes back to the Occupy Wall Street protests. You know, we can talk about the wars and all this drone strikes and horrible things he did, but I think all presidents do that. I don't think he's special, but the fact he got a Nobel Peace Prize 9 months in without doing anything and then started wars is just. But going back to the Occupy Wall Street, you had the 99% versus the 1%, and then what happened when they finally went in and they sent in the troops to, you know, clear out Zuccotti Park and different ones around the country. You saw a shift, and you can actually check this on Google Trends or, you know, some kind of easy free analytics, because I've looked at it. That's when the explosion of the divisional politics, the identity politics comes in. They, instead of 1%, 99, BlackRock and, you know, all these big companies poured a lot of money in for articles
Mm,
about, why, there's so much racism and, why
mm.
people need to look
About
home.
what year is this now?
Um, let's see. That would be 2011.
Mm. Well before I'm paying attention.
Right. So
Perfect.
that's 2011 when the Occupy Wall Street started. And then from 2011 to 2014, it hit just max crescendo. And that's when you had kids at Harvard screaming at their professors that, they were oppressed and land
That's
acknowledgments.
fascinating because I never understood why people would say why they would connect the rise in the toxic leftist ideologies, CRT, all of
Yeah,
that to Obama. I said, that's the thing I don't know that I see. And so looking back on it, but you're telling me there's absolutely a connection. Was it Obama
absolutely.
or
Because if
was
you
it the
think,
corporations?
I think it was people that funded and fueled Obama said, hey, we enough with killed the bankers. We've done enough damage to Manhattan. We need to figure out, get a better distraction. And
Mm,
throughout history, we know declassified docs and stuff has shown they've run psyops, they've run operations and stuff
mm.
against the American people. But yeah, and if you remember, do you remember Beergate?
Beergate? I don't think so.
So I would have to look the story up vaguely. There was some kind of arrest of a black kid, and Obama come out, condemn the officers, condemn the sheriff, and then it come out that all the info wasn't correct and the cops did the right thing. He had him at the they made a big to do out of it. They had him at, they called it the beer summit. They sat down,
Mm,
had beers. Obama apologized, and then like
okay.
Trayvon Martin, Obama commented heavily on
Wow.
that. He said that could have been my son. And I
Right.
mean, just really kept pushing
Wish.
it, kept pushing it.
Yeah. I mean, that one, I don't know how bad that one is, but maybe it's, a comment you shouldn't, maybe it's a comment you shouldn't make, but that doesn't seem like a
Sure.
huge
No, it's
thing.
not.
I mean,
It's
I
just
hear
you
you.
stack all these together. And then I think shortly before his term ended, there was I think it was Charlotte.
Fuck white people comment? No, I'm just kidding.
No, which I mean, fair if that's what you think,
No, I'm just
But I think there was a church shooting and the guy had like rebel flags and stuff. And Obama went down and gave a big speech crying and
mm.
basically said white people need to do better, enough of the white hate and that,
Was that the Dylan
it,
Roof thing?
it might be, might
Church
be.
shooting where like I think he killed a lot of black churchgoers.
Yeah,
That
yeah.
was rough.
And I mean, we have to differentiate between a psycho with mental issues
Sure.
and people that are just like, I'm white, you're black, I'm killing all you. I mean, that I don't know anybody like that. And I live in the
Right.
South. I live in one of the whitest towns within hundreds of miles.
Right. And for people who
And I'm
are
not white, by the way. I'm mixed. So
fucking cut this stream right now. No, I'm kidding. No, that's funny, because for people who just imagine you're a young white guy in America, and these institutions are now magnifying these narratives that say you're bad and so forth, and then you have if Obama did, I'll take your word for it, kind of join in this collective condemnation of white at a psychopath's act, you could start to see how, wait a minute, what kind of message is that young white guy getting? Not to say that they're the only person in America and the only
right.
perspective worth validating, but
Well,
start to
even
kind of
without somebody as powerful as Obama speaking on it, the entire media apparatus, including Fox, they weren't, exempt from this either. They pushed. It was just constant race issues, just constant. And I think, to kind of get to your other question, the current climate, it's been shaped by a lot of that. I think Biden really, really supercharged everything with all the DEI push and
yeah,
the transgender people in high positions that weren't qualified and things like that.
yeah,
But
100%.
I think 2024. I think Kamala lost for a lot of good reasons, but I think we saw such a youth turnout because people are sick of it, and it's no longer, it's never cool when you're supporting the same things your teachers are, and that's not counterculture, and kids kind of like to be
Mm.
counterculture, but I think they also don't want to be told they're inherently racist all the time, or that they have to
No,
accept
I tell you,
this, or
man.
that a man could be a woman kind of thing, which I'm totally fine with. Like, I have no issues with transgender.
Right,
I have gay friends. Um, you know, I have no issue. Live how you want to live, but I don't want my kids learning that in school. My grandkids. I have
right.
I just had a new
Right.
grandkid. I think I told you we have 8 grandkids now.
Right.
I want them to learn skills. I don't want ideology in there, and and that's
Yeah.
from both sides. I wouldn't want somebody come in and reading a chapter of the Bible to them.
Absolutely. And that's basically what I've come to believe MAGA is mostly about. There is the fringe that wants to basically get revenge for this focus on race. It's just interesting, and so I want to get to that, and I want to
Sure.
ask you a little bit more about your political identity, so to speak, and is it mostly about the cultural issues, the race issues, like mine is, because me, just to kind of add to the conversation, I know you kind of know this already, and so does the audience presumably, but just real quick, I just want to say one of the reasons I'm still doing the podcast is because I think oddly I have something to contribute to this important piece of the national conversation about the culture wars, which is strange because I'm so ignorant. Yes, I went to law school at night and it was great and I learned a lot and expanded on my mind. It was beautiful. But um, I'm no political guru by any stretch of the imagination. I'm not I don't know the issues. All I really know is that I found it strange as a 28-year-old guy going back to school with obviously 22-year-olds and having been out of school for a decade at that point, or no, sorry, not a decade, 6 years, solid
Right.
6 years, to have to go through implicit bias training at the very beginning. I go, that was weird. Like,
Yeah.
holy crap, what? But whatever. But it's very strange right off the bat. And then the sensitivity of the students is super high. It's like, ooh, this is different, but whatever, fine. And me being me, coming from the family I come from, being interested in social justice, I took those critical race theory electives in my final year after studying the core curriculum, which made me feel really proud. I was already proud to be an American, but I go, wow, this system is great. And I probably had
Right.
mostly conservative teachers during those courses. And I'm like, okay, like we don't need to be like hardcore liberals here or leftists. Like the system we have right now is pretty damn good. I love it. And
Yeah,
then
I
to get
agree.
those classes at the tail end of that, to sandwich it with the CRT and go, holy shit. And then to look around, and this is what I think people fail to understand about my little narrative that I spout, is that it's that I studied it and then I looked around and I saw it at play in the world. And then I looked back on those implicit bias training. I go, geez, this is really being implemented. And the professor,
So, can I ask you? Sorry to interrupt.
let me
Can you
say,
tell me
let me say
what you
one
looked
final
around
thing.
and saw?
Okay. What's that?
Just the things you saw being played out in real life, because
Well,
I
I was
think
just
I
going to
think that's
say,
important for people.
yeah, well, you could see it in the Oscars,
Sure.
a focus on
Absolutely.
race instead of merit.
Good example.
Not to say that you don't want to be socially minded, okay, and be equitably minded generally, but the Oscars is not about racial equality, right?
Exactly.
It's about great movies, and so apply that to across the board. But I was going to say, to answer your question, so these classes were controversial, but I loved the professor. Uh, I mean, a fuse was lit. There was fireworks happening in my brain, and I got into it appropriately with classmates, and I took the Ted Cruz view, and I started to think, wow, I guess I'm like Ted Cruz. And this is while the DeSantis is arguing about it in the primary. This is while Ted Cruz and Justice Jackson are debating during the her what do you call it, nomination or
Yeah.
appointment. So I'm seeing it. I'm seeing the conversation, and to put a finer point on it, even I remember one class professor said, because he would always make the point, oh, it's really not, it's only here in classes that we're learning about it. And I would say, no, I'm seeing it in the world. And he conceded one day that he was at a conference. He had just gone to a conference, mega conference, national, about this stuff. He's a passionate um, supporter of CRT. And he told a story about a teacher, young, I think maybe like elementary school. And she said, we teach this stuff basically. And he admitted
Yeah.
that. And I go, see that, professor, how could you not, a light bulb not go off and say, geez, if one person that I spoke to at a conference said it, certainly it's happening.
Yeah. Well, and that
So
goes
it's
back to the whole tax and Department of Education thing. That's completely just, there's more administrators than it's we're being fleeced.
And people say, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say that I actually worked on a couple political campaigns 10, 12, I don't know how long ago, just doing comms, directing, and stuff.
Hmm.
I remember talking with people that were dead set against the person, and with decent reason and stuff. But what I found out, usually if people like me and you, just normal people that aren't, extremists, I guess, have a conversation, you can usually find common ground. And I think that's what's I've always hated about the DEI policies and CRT and all that is I don't ever think we should. I think we should enjoy our differences, but we shouldn't shame one another for it. And that's how we were taught growing up. I'm a little older than you. I'm mid-40s, late 40s, I guess. It was, hey, we're all equal. It's just skin color, but we're all equal. We need to live it, and I think that was working. Not that there wasn't racism and stuff that went on, but you can't tell me 20 years ago we weren't in a better spot racially.
Well, that's what you'd be a good person to ask. That's my contention. Obviously, I was a kid, but I was like, God, I don't think in the 80s and 90s.
No. And like there was issues, but
sure.
But nothing like now. Now it, they actively,
what it is?
Racism.
So you know what it is? And this is obviously I learned this. I mean, I studied CRT in law school.
Yeah, I never have, to be clear. I'm not a CRT.
Yeah, so I'll give it to you. I'll give it to you in one sentence. I mean, there's so much I could say. I took 2 courses on it. But basically, it's a deconstruction of American culture. The idea is the culture we have now. No one's going to deny that there were not structural problems in the beginning of our country. But the idea is the country we have now, I think we would all agree, you'd have to agree that it's base, the melting pot that we like to think of, it does have its base in a white culture. You can't deny that. You cannot deny it. That white culture has been modified, expanded, and changed. The melting pot we have, America, is what it is. It's a conglomeration of things, but it's based on, it doesn't come from Africa.
Well, it's based on, like you said, the melting pot, and that's where I think it's really went wrong.
Yeah. So basically, CRT just says, hey, look, that melting pot, it's a nice concept and it sounds good, but the reality about that melting pot is it favors white people still too much. And that because it's got that historical base in what you would call a white culture, the effect today for non-white people is that they don't jive with it. It's not fair. It's just a matter of fairness. So the idea is you have to deconstruct the culture, what we have now, because it's inherently, implicitly harming Black people, non-white people. And it's a sad thing to hear. And, if you want to be open-minded and intellectually honest and all that and give it credit for a second, you go, geez, like, is that the case? Like, is it the case that what needs to happen now is a deconstruction and reconstruction of our culture to make it more? And I just go, I don't want to dismiss your concerns, social justice warriors, but I'm sorry, where I am still is I believe in this country. I love this country. I believe in the melting pot. I don't think we need to rewire the melting pot. I think the melting pot is great. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and I think it goes back to a culture shift. People talk so much about actual race and stuff. I don't think we talk enough about the culture. And I think, I don't know where you stand on the whole mass deportation thing, but I want more deportations than we have, for the simple fact, and there's a few reasons. One, there was way too many shipped in unvetted that shouldn't be here. They're especially if they commit an additional crime, they need to immediately go. But for decades, the deal is okay, you come to our country, you assimilate. You don't have to change your religion. You don't have to, change your entire life, but you need to understand our Western values, the things we care about, because this is ultimately our country. And
I'm on board with that. Assimilation is a necessary component to an immigration.
And how do you not expect that when you go to another country? You need to know some basic rules of their society.
Good news, if you're coming to America, what you're assimilating into is a freedom culture.
Yeah.
So that's great.
I think the basic requirements, know whatever test you have to take for the immigration test and learn English and learn just our basic values and respect them.
Yeah.
Don't start blasting, a
Yeah.
Muslim prayer call in the middle of Minneapolis 5 times a day like they're doing. That's not what we need to be doing unless you want to
Yeah.
start blasting out Bible stuff from every church in the land. But I
Yeah.
think as a society, we agreed, hey, that's a private issue. You want to go to
Mm.
church, do your church thing. Don't do it in the middle of the street, or don't force me to listen to your prayer call. And I know
I
that's
like that.
just a silly example, but I mean, that's where you start to, if we can't have a cohesive society that shares something, then we're just really, really setting ourselves up for
I
bad.
agree, and that's the reason I didn't go along with the CRT stuff, because I
Yeah.
said no. And to tie it back to culture, the whole point of the CRT is, yeah, you have the different races, and guess what? According to the CRT mindset, each race has its own culture and its own values. And look, maybe that's true. I don't know what to say. That probably is true in many cases. But the way I look at it, and we look at it, I think, is, look, American culture, you don't got to be white. You don't have to be this.
No,
Anyone can be an American. And so it's not too much to ask.
no, I don't think so. And I think whenever we lost that expectations, and I think we've kind of been hijacked by, people want to make money, whether it's corporations or whatever, but activism class is out of control. I mean, people get paid to protest, they get paid to be
Hmm.
angry,
Yeah.
they're addicted
Right.
to it. And that keeps us from focusing on, well, where the hell is our tax money going? Why are we spending $100 billion over here
Right.
to Nicaragua or something?
Right.
I didn't vote for that. Did you? No, I don't know anybody that
Mm.
thinks that's a good idea. And maybe there's a good reason, but I sure the hell want
Right.
to hear it before our tax money goes out to it. And it seems like we get distracted by, a racial issue, or now it's mass deportations or immigration. But I think if, long term, we've only been around 250 years, right? I mean, throughout
Right.
history, that's a blip. People think
Right.
this country can't crumble and
Great.
fall. They are wrong.
Great point.
And it'll happen because of internal fighting. There'll be some kind of standoff with feds and states, and who knows what can happen from there. There's a really good book that outlined this I read years ago, but there's several ways things can go wrong, and I don't think people appreciate that enough. Honestly, that this
Hmm.
isn't a guarantee that
Right.
we all stay the United States. We may end up the southern states or the whatever the mega states. I
Yep.
don't know, but we're not very old. Lots of dynasties, fell after 1,000 years. Uh,
Yeah, I interviewed a secessionist a couple of years ago. It was interesting. Right when the time when Marjorie Taylor Greene was talking about national divorce, and so you bring up such a great point. The reason, probably you too, but certainly I am passionate about it, is because, like, I see this issue. I've identified it as extremely toxic, and I don't think it's a guarantee that this country stays together. You have to work for it if you love it. You have to. We love this
yeah,
country.
and you have to accept its flaws. I don't think
Right.
anybody. Like I said, I live in the deep south. I've met some racists, but they don't go around trying to start fights or anything. That's just the way they were raised, and
Right.
then they'd be polite to any race they
Right.
met. But
You can't police a thought crime. You can
no,
you can get racism out of society using all available legal means, and we have. But you
yeah,
can't you can't you can't change someone's thoughts.
and you can't do payback. That's not the way to balance the scales. It's not. You can't. Oh, we're gonna push white people down so we can have more equity. That's just going to cause more resentment that
Yeah,
will
certainly
backfire.
not. Yeah, culturally. I mean, I'd be open to the reparations thing. It's like, you want to have a conversations about reparations? Tell me. And if we can, that's way different. I'm not even saying I support reparations. What I'm
Sure.
saying is, that's concrete. It's easy to track. It's quantifiable, and it's not cultural. And
Right.
so I'm open to that.
I I guess maybe I would be if I thought that would solve the problem. We've created
Right, but the idea
specific
has to
programs.
be, okay, we're done now.
Sure.
And that's
But
not the
yeah, they
claim.
would have to agree to that. How do you, I mean, how do you
And that's
enforce
the
that?
problem. They think,
It's
they
like, shut
being
the hell up, damn it. We,
the
we, we
left, the
paid
far
you.
left, which is not all black people, the far left, that
No,
group,
most of
and that's
the
why
radicals are white.
the radicals who don't like capitalism, who don't like, yeah, basically it's capitalism. They wanted to deconstruct
Yeah,
the whole system, and so it's absolutely tied to Marxist ideas. There's no
yeah.
question about it. These people. So you put all that together, and the culture war, it's real now. It might have been manufactured initially, but it's real now.
No,
And
it's
I
definitely
just
real.
started paying attention, and I get this little glimpse of it, and I go, "Oh my god, I think I might have had a front row seat to one of the biggest problems in our country, this identity crisis." And now you have the Nick Fuenteses of the world, and it's like I definitely understand where they're coming from. The Groypers, they've been told they're bad for this long, and they think their country's being attacked, and frankly, it is. So their idea is to say, no, we're going to reform society racially as well, but to our liking, and that's not the answer either.
No.
So tell me about is this basically, are these the issues that you focus on, culture stuff?
Yeah, I mean, I'll be honest. I shit post a lot on Twitter just for my own amusement. I did have a
So
much
do I.
larger account, and I got banned for commenting something like, "Oh, if this happens, it'll make the Democrats' head explode." And I got cited for
Mm,
violence and permabanned. Never had an issue before, and it was after Elon
wow.
bought this place. And I've
Wow.
appealed, and they just shut it down immediately.
Damn.
So I created a couple more accounts just to make sure I could use Gronk, and I don't, but I definitely not. You mentioned Nick Fuentes. I've seen clips of his. I've never watched his show. He's a really good speaker, honestly, and
Oh,
seems pretty
super
intelligent.
gifted. Mm.
He's super gifted. I think, yeah, especially since they killed Charlie. I think that's the natural. That just radicalized a whole lot of people.
Yeah, how
And,
about
and
that?
yeah, that's a tough one. I was actually watching that show was being live streamed, or at least delayed live stream. I think it was TPUSA, and I wasn't even paying attention. And then I heard
Mm.
the
You
commotion,
blinked
and
and it was over.
yeah, and I thought, okay, because I've working in especially occupational safety and things like that. I've seen plenty of deaths, amputation, all that, and I don't want to see anymore. I don't even hunt anymore, and we have deer all around here.
Mm.
But and then I saw the high definition closer up one, and then I had to just shut my brain off from
Oh, it
dealing
was
with anything for
so
a couple of
sickening.
weeks.
And it came the following week after that stabbing on the train
Yep.
with that girl.
Yeah, and that should make it. That's what I don't understand about the Democrats is, look, I don't hate all Democrats, but they have been so lost since the election, and even I think even before with Biden. I think they've been allowed to become really, really lazy. The media has not challenged them at
Mm.
all, with a few exceptions, obviously. But the media has, Obama was such a powerful superstar. He was the Messiah. Remember,
Hmm.
that was his nickname, the Messiah. He
Yeah,
walked on water, and the
right.
media protected him. Celebrities, if you knew Obama, you were cool. That was a whole powerful cultural force, just like Trump is.
Yep.
Um, and I think they got lazy because the media, you didn't see Nancy Pelosi go on CNN and get grilled by a Chris Matthews or somebody like that. They would get softballs. They'd never have to really explain themselves. And I think that led to someone like Kamala, who, she's at the debate with Trump. She was great at delivering lines she had rehearsed for weeks. But anytime she's in an interview, she sounds drunk.
Right.
Or pretty low IQ anyway. And I don't know anybody that disputes that. But I think there's a lot of politicians like that. The ones we see are the ones that are kind of ready to spar if they go on CNN as a
Right.
Republican. But Dems, you don't see them doing that much. They're doing their TikToks and their floor
Yeah.
speeches, but
They definitely
it's
seem less talented and less capable. And, that's got to mean something. I know, in the age of Trump, we put so much stock on performance on TV, but it does send a message about what you believe, and all you get out of these Democrats is anti-Trump, and what are they for? And I get
yeah.
it; they're healthcare subsidies. Okay, that's fair. And look, the Democrats want plenty of things. They want plenty of entitlement. So it's not like they don't have things they're for, but their messaging has been so anti-Trump, and the
So bad.
performances have been so uninspiring. It's just like, geez, like,
Well, resisting Trump for what 10 plus years now hasn't worked. And anybody that's been
right?
around like my age remembers 2015, 2014 or 15, I think it was, going on The View, kissing and hugging all those ladies.
Mm,
Everybody loved Trump my entire life.
Right.
That I remember, rap
Right.
songs. He was in TV shows, you name it. And then all of a sudden he calls them all out on stage for being bought and paid for. And he's enemy number one.
Right. And then
And
people say now, but are you one of these guys that has kind of looked at Trump critically and gone, but dude, you've become that guy?
yeah, I'm not diehard Trump. I voted for him twice. I supported him. I think he's the best president we've probably had that's got trying to get things done that I care about. And we'll see how it pans out because I'm not happy right now. I'm very unhappy with shit going on. I think he needs to make some changes. Something.
Give me one or two things you're not happy about.
Well, I'll tell you one is really how the immigration stuff is going and obeying all these. SCOTUS has basically banned nationwide injunctions, but every time a lower appeals court issues one, everything stops. And I think that's a cop out. I heard they're leaving Chicago, possibly immigration. And it's like, really, they've rammed their cars, they've shot at them, they've impeded that. Why don't we arrest governors or mayors that are explicitly saying on social media and interviews that they won't enforce federal laws? How do they get away with that? I think we've really got to go after stuff like that, and it's not happening. I see a lot of talk about, there's all this evidence about, the conspiracy to spy on us, all that. But I don't see, the only person that's been indicted for anything is Fani Willis and Adam Schiff. And it's like, okay, what the hell's going on? And I don't care as much about the Epstein stuff. I think if Trump was in it, we'd have known because they literally tried to kill him. They tried to destroy him. They indicted him. If they had something like that on him, I have no doubt they would have found a way to make sure everybody knew. So I still think those victims need justice, yada, yada. But I think I want to see him pay attention to more domestic issues right now. People, whether there's no reason for the same prices as COVID for items at Costco and Walmart and all that, especially when I think the whole world realized that 25% of Walmart's revenue is basically coming through taxpayers' EBT and SNAP and things like that. And yet the same workers aren't making enough to not be on SNAP. A lot of workers qualify for, food stamps and whatnot. And I think stuff like that needs addressed. And you'd think there'd be popular opinions for both sides. So I'd like to see him make a speech and be like, hey, we need to address price gouging or something. We don't have supply chain issues right now. Inflation is, 2.5%, 3%. So it's down from even when he took off. There's no reason for these inflationary prices. The market's doing fine, but American people are still hurting. And I was going to say I care about Israel and Gaza, but I honestly don't. I'm sick of hearing that whole thing. Like, I never paid attention to Israel before all this. I felt bad they got attacked. I get a retaliatory response, but I also, I follow accounts that post videos on Signal and stuff of, just the horrific violence this went. And same with Ukraine. All war is bad, but I think Israel took it way too far for way too long. And I still don't understand all of that. So I just kind of leave that alone. But I get stopping all these wars and stuff, but pay attention to what's happening to your people here. We're not deporting the people enough. More people have self-deported than we've drug out of here. And then, how do we get forced into bringing a sex trafficker back from another country after we deported him? It's like, who the hell's running this show of all the things we could worry about? But it kind of, to your point with the Democrats and their just bad messaging, how do they defend criminals that are here illegally? But they do. How do they defend, the massive waste and fraud and abuse that, is documented? Assuming
you would think just falsified. Strategically, if they wanted to make more headway, they would. I would certainly have taken a different path.
Find some common ground there.
Find some common ground. Find some.
We're fixing this together. Everybody loves bipartisanship, especially the boomers. But you got to throw them a bone. And right now, it's just we're building a ballroom and whatever. And I think we need one. But, they're bitching about that. They, every time he speaks, the world ends. And it's like, calm down. And I think
that's all very interesting. MGT or MTG, Marjorie Taylor Greene, saying a similar thing. Hey, focus more on domestic policy, buddy. And Trump said the other day, you may have seen the clip, he was asked about her
Yeah.
criticism, and he said, look, I'm focusing on important foreign issues. And so maybe Trump's thinking to himself, you know what? I don't like the line of attack from Marjorie. I'm doing a great job, but maybe there is an underlying point there. Maybe I've been
Yeah.
uh, a little too, not too focused, but maybe I need to keep in mind that eventually I'm going to need to turn my focus back domestically. So that's all fair. And I wanted to mention, with respect to your question about why aren't they arresting governors and stuff, um, I'm not 100% sure that the following analysis is correct, but I think it is. And this is kind of a little nugget I can pull from law school, which is really fun and a great example of why I loved going.
Nice.
But really, I think you'll find this very interesting. I think what I'm about to say is accurate. There's this concept called commandeering. Um, from Supreme Court cases precedent that basically says the federal government cannot compel a state government, a state legislator from passing a law. Legislature, I always make that mistake.
Sure.
Legislature from passing a law, and it also cannot compel a state executive from enforcing a federal law. So while I think that gives these federal state players the room to say, "Hey, look, we're not going to stop you from," but then again, but if you're not complying with federal law, that's different than being forced to. So, is there a commandeering analysis? Is kind of what I'm
Sure.
saying there, and that's a rabbit hole that I need to chase down because
Well, an
it's
arrested them probably be too extreme, honestly, because it would look bad. It would get spun bad. So I
right,
get not doing it, honestly, but we control federal funding. Be like, hey, either get your crime rate down, cooperate with federal agents, or we're not giving you whatever.
right. Pull
There's
some
got
more levers, work the issue more.
yeah, something. But I haven't heard none of that. I hear a bunch
Yeah,
of they haven't invited us in, and it's like, okay, but just overall, I just want and I think Trump is good about listening to criticism. I don't know if you ever heard the famous conversation with him and John Rich at the White House before he got elected. And
no,
he asked
never heard of that.
John, basically, he's like, why do people boo when I mention the vaccine? And John Rich is like, I didn't know him very well, but I went ahead and told him that, you know, vaccine's great, whatever, but a lot of people have big issues with the mandates, and they
Mm-hmm.
had big issues with the safety of it, especially since the vaccine injuries and stuff. I don't think Trump had really heard that or took that to heart before, but I know after that, uh, you didn't hear Trump brag so much about the vaccines,
Right.
even though that was he touted that a
Yeah.
lot during the campaign initially.
Yeah.
But he listens to criticisms, and I think he internalizes a lot of it. Now, I also think he's a bit impulsive sometimes. He's crass sometimes. My wife, she supports Trump, but she's very critical of him. She
Yeah.
was very upset with this whole shutdown thing because she knows people. My wife is a travel nurse, and she knows people who rely on SNAP and food stamp and elderly people, not just young people.
Mm.
But I want to see the system reformed. You can go on Twitter or X and TikTok, and you see people, with three, carts full of $1,000 of junk, and it's like, I've never had food stamps, and I had 6 children, so
Mm.
I just worked. Me and my wife worked, sometimes multiple jobs. I get people needing it too, but systems like that need reformed. We had it shut down for 6 weeks or 40 days or something. Make everybody sign up again and make it rapid, warp speed, something. But I think there's a lot we could do, and we're just lazy.
I think I'm with you. I think we're aligned in the sense that I don't want to eradicate any social safety nets, but who isn't into optimization, efficiency for all the right reasons? I mean, to save money and to save culture, right? To
Yeah,
have the right incentives. So, that's just reasonable. I think that's where MAGA is generally. Libertarians want to cut all of these things on principle. Some MAGA do too, probably, I'm sure. But it's interesting. Trump is obviously not a perfect human being. No one is.
yeah, sure.
He's got some obvious, I want to say flaws, but things that you could critique about him. And I don't pretend that he's perfect. And so we will have to see what happens. You have to keep an eye on him, like you have to keep an eye on any president. I don't have blind faith in him. I think he
Right.
would love to serve a third term. I think, so understanding what you're dealing with, and ultimately I've made the judgment that this is a positive force, that the guardrails can work, and when you put it all together and shake it up, what you get is a good result. He's a vigorous executive. Um, it's a tumultuous time, and he's controversial, man, culturally, economically. I mean, what a time.
Yeah.
Is this the craziest time you've observed?
Yeah, for sure. Mainly, he's not a politician. He's just a guy. And I think he's mostly authentic. And I could be totally wrong. My read on Trump, and I'd love to hear your thoughts. You know, he didn't have to do this. They basically warned him if he tried to run again, after 2020, it was going to get worse. And it did. And I don't know why he would do this. And like I said, my mother in law, horribly anti Trump. She would say he's just robbing us blind to get rich, to get richer, and I just don't buy that as an argument at this point. I
And
haven't
stay
seen
out of
evidence
jail.
of
I
that.
mean, why not throw that in there? And it's,
But yeah, but they didn't have to indict. They literally changed laws to indict him, and I mean
yeah,
they
no,
went.
I
They
know.
did everything possible to ruin this man. His life would, if he would have agreed to go away, and I'd be shocked if somebody didn't say, "Look, just go away, and this is
Right.
over." Um,
But
I
his ego,
don't.
I think once he was, well, go ahead. Please go ahead.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. He has an ego, and I think that's what started a lot of this. But I just wonder, what his motivation is. I genuinely think he loves the country. If you deep dive, you can find numerous amounts of times he's done very charitable things and didn't do press conferences with them. And I have a lot of respect for that.
Mm-hmm.
And I think he's an impressive man, if nothing else. I mean, he's accomplished a lot and he does a lot. And Christ, I'm not even 50 and I don't have his energy.
Exactly.
I need a nap. So I think there's something special about him. I think, I don't know if you listen to history podcasts or anything, but there's a theory. There's, a, throughout history, there's been great men of history that just emerge, whether it's Genghis Khan or Hitler. Not that Hitler's great, just people,
Right.
well
It
known,
changed the
famous.
course.
Yes, exactly. And for better or worse, we're witnessing history. This will
Right.
be written about forever because I don't know what comes after this. The Democrats have to get it together, but I have zero faith in the Republican. I saw the other day they were trying to took a case to the Supreme Court to kill gay marriage. Why?
Mm.
Just why? That's just
Mm.
as bad as trying to force, I don't know, pronouns on everybody or something. It's just like, who cares? That shouldn't be the focus. We've got, if you looked at Doge for people to retire pre Trump and Elon getting in there, it was like an 8-week or 12-week process that was done by hand and stuff. And it's like, how are we still that inefficient as the most powerful country in history? So imagine the other waste that we're not seeing. And I think that would be the fixing that would be one of the better legacies of any president, is actually modernizing, saving our tax money for real issues.
Well, I think you described Trump perfectly. Um, this psychological force to be reckoned with. Have we ever seen a human being command the attention of the world
No.
like this?
Yeah,
Uh,
it's the
and
world. That's what's impressive. It's
and
not
and
just,
have it on his shoulders and get 2 hours of sleep and be leading the way with consistency, with boldness. It's mind blowing. And then you combine that with partnering with innovators who are super impressive, and like, you don't want to obviously put anyone on a pedestal, but I don't think there's anything wrong with looking at some of Elon Musk and so forth and to optimize. I mean, the idea of bringing those people in to modernize our government, it sounds good to me. I don't want to
yeah,
fuck anybody over, but it sounds good to me. And so it's an unbelievable time. What a political shakeup. So, the reason I got a little play on Twitter is because I joined the water, swimming with the other fish. Is a lot of people are going this way, not everyone, but a lot of people are saying, wow, the political environment and the figures on the stage, it's all jumbled now and it's very different. So these terms, and that's why the original podcast was searching for political identity. But you also referenced what comes next, and I think that's going to be even more interesting,
yeah,
and consequential. And so I have a guest who is really informed guy, a great guy. He's another average Joe, if you will. But
Sure.
I go to him for geopolitics. He's really plugged in, and his phrase is, "These are not quiet times. These are not blank pages in the books of history." And so
No.
Trump. But what comes next? That is super interesting. I love following presidential elections just for the sport of it. It's always interesting. It's been particularly interesting lately. And there's a lot on the line, man.
Yeah. Yeah, because I mean, a lot of what has been taking place is executive orders. Biden on day one signed like 100, killing everything from the Keystone Pipeline to
Right.
instituting CRT, DEI in the entire government. So
Yep.
if we don't actually find a way to get people to be less insane, and that's when I knew. I
In
hope.
terms of, well, let me just add, both in terms of ideology and in terms of structural government, maybe we
Yes.
can get back to the basics of this is how you pass a law. And so those two problems together.
Yeah, well, I saw some stat that was like prior to, and I'm throwing this out there, this may not be accurate, but it's somewhere close. Like prior to 1978 or something, the government had only shut down one time, and it shut down like 50 something times since, or some.
Yeah.
You'll have to look up the exact data, but we're very dysfunctional, and it's all just Trump. I honestly think could be like, hey, we cured cancer, and I honestly think there'd be Democrats being either said it's a scam or he's lying or cancers can be good, and
Right.
it's just everything, and it's like, hey, can we just go back to being normal? He's got 3 years left, then we're moving on, and I think he'd probably like to serve another term. I don't think he will, and I don't think he'll try to, but I'd be shocked if he did.
I think he wants to, and I hate Bannon. I don't want to say that.
Yeah,
but it's like, fuck, man. Like, okay, Steve, did I go a little too hard on you? I went when he did his Nazi salute, allegedly. I said that looked like a Nazi salute, and people said, "You're still a lefty, Brian." And I go, "Shit, did I? I just watched a 2-second clip. Fuck, am I guilty again of being that lefty at heart?" So I want to be like, "Wait a minute, let me not rush judgment about the guy." But what the fuck, man? And so this comments pissed me off about the third term from Bannon. And I
I've
don't
heard
think
him
Trump.
talk a lot about that.
And I think so. What's up with that? Like, is that justifiable?
Well, I mean, Bannon's not even in the cabinet.
I know, but as a political figure, shouldn't that be condemned?
Yeah, I don't know about condemned. That just, I think that gets back to trying to cancel people. I think we're too strict on each other. Especially you do hours of radio. You've done this podcast. How many episodes have you done?
No,
I'm sure
that's
you
true.
said something you wish you could take back. Because I know I have. I used to do a radio show with a buddy of mine. And you talk, and sometimes you're tired, sometimes you're pissed off. Because I've had my moments where I'm just like, to hell with
But he
Trump.
said it in an interview in a very
sure. Oh yeah, I saw it.
And even then, I got you. I got you.
But even after that, though, I remember seeing the Bannon thing, and I don't watch Bannon regularly, but I think I know the clip you're referencing. They asked Trump about it on Air Force One. He's like, "Well, there is some ways, but they're too gimmicky." And I think he's old. He's a billionaire. He's got grandkids. And I don't know if you watch Kai Trump or him with his.
No, but I know about her. Yeah.
Yeah, she's a great golfer. He genuinely loves his family, and I don't think he wants to spend it fighting with Democrats or radicals or his own people, because some of his opposition is straight from his own party. And I don't think so I could be wrong, but assuming he's not, I think JD's a good candidate. Marco's kind of grown on me. I've never been a big Marco fan, but I'm really interested who the Democrats can come up with. Newsom's obviously throwing his hat in. It sounds like Kamala will give it a shot, but I don't think Kamala has a shot. Newsom, I think he does have a shot.
You have to say he has a shot. I mean, you got to give him
it
credit.
Just depends how bad shit gets. Like,
he's
if
talented.
Trump don't fix the economy.
He's talented. That, and he's talented. I don't love his strategy, right? But you know what? It's worked. Of mocking Trump, fighting back. You know what?
He's gotten good attention. Yeah,
it's worked for him. I don't know that it's worked. It's probably
worked. How so?
It worked. How so?
Yeah.
Well, I just think raising his profile and
and I agree with that.
That's basically it.
I think his podcast helped too. Having Charlie on, having who else do you have on in this show?
You got to applaud that. Absolutely.
Yeah, I like that he was.
So I don't have a problem with Newsom. Like, honestly, like, he could theoretically, I could imagine him making his case that I should vote for him. I could see, it's not
Sure.
out of the realm of possibility. It wouldn't be aligned with how I've come to see politics, but I'm not strong economically. So if he can make up for the culture stuff, and which I think you can ultimately do, and I think he's tried to, um, the economic stuff, it's like, which way am I going to go? That's the big question for me.
Yeah, but if you look at his economic record in California, it's nothing to
Right.
brag about. So
Absolutely
it's bad.
understood. So
And it's very corrupt, it seems. And
yeah,
he's
so
part of the Pelosi family. They're all,
these
I
things
don't
do
know
not
that we
help him.
want.
So yeah, but
Do you think
nonetheless,
he'd be an effective president?
well, despite all of that, when you have charisma and talent like he does, you have to say you could imagine that person being effective.
See, my big nightmare is that somebody like Newsom will get elected, and then we'll go back in the WHO, funding everything through the
Oh
UN and
yeah, of
NATO,
course. I
and that
mean,
I hate that so much.
and
I
so
think that is just the worst possible scenario.
well, it's all about, are you his thing is he can speak
Oh yeah,
and he can think. And so it's a low bar, but make a fucking
yeah. Of all the
argument to me.
Democrats, he's probably the best at doing
Yeah.
interviews and
Now I
stuff.
think there's so much talent on. I think he's going to have a hard time going against whoever his opponent ends up being. It's going to be, so he's got some tremendous weaknesses despite his strengths. So I almost feel bad for him, honestly. But
So out of say Pritzker, Josh Shapiro, Kamala, Newsom, who else would be on that list, and who do you think might be the strong? I think Josh Shapiro. If he wasn't Jewish, not
yeah,
that
he
that's
could.
an issue
Yeah.
with me, but
Right.
that's
No,
been
but it's going to
a
be
big
an
leftist issue.
enormous challenge for him. Yeah. I mean, I like Dean Phillips, actually. Just who was it? Steve Bullock was a guy. I mean, I was a different person then, but I go, oh, he was he's governor of Montana, right? Former governor of
Oh,
Montana.
okay.
It's like, I dug that. Give me somebody. So I don't know the answer to your question, but it is going
Yeah.
to be interesting. I think ultimately we'll be okay post Trump, but he's definitely changed the game.
Yeah. And I think, at least for
Definitely.
the diehard MAGA people, I think JD Vance kind of has
Yeah.
endeared himself to most of us. So I think he'll get the MAGA, especially if Trump endorses
Yeah.
and it's a Vance Rubio ticket or something
Yeah.
along those lines. People that we think are doing something decent, but also like Tulsi Gabbard. Honestly, I think
Yeah.
she might. I
Absolutely.
think she could be a great president, possibly.
She's extremely impressive. No question about it. If the vote was tomorrow, I'd be voting for JD Vance without reservation, or whoever the Republican is,
Right.
obviously. But to your point, or maybe it wasn't a point you were making, but certainly going to keep an open mind. But
Yeah,
you
and you
know,
got to. There might be somebody amazing that
yeah,
comes out of left
absolutely,
field, and I
right.
hope I wouldn't mind that a bit. I don't mind DeSantis so much either. He's
I
just a
like
little.
DeSantis. I love him.
I love his policies and all that. He just gets awkward.
He's
I
super
think he's a
awkward, and
little. I think
I
he's
don't
somewhere
care
on
at
the
all.
spectrum. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
totally, and I love it.
So, but
I
he's
think that's
smart,
great.
smart.
Yeah, super
So I think
smart.
we got a good roster.
I really like
It's
DeSantis. Absolutely, Burgum. I like.
yeah. I don't know so much about Burgum other
I just
than
like his
the
energy. He's an
debates.
executive, an experienced executive. Was he a governor? I think he was a governor.
It might have been.
He's in Trump's cabinet. I think he's the Secretary of Energy.
I'll
I
tell you who
can't.
I like. Scott Bassett.
Oh
Never
yeah,
heard of him
he's
before, but
yeah,
he's just smart. He's gay, so I
yeah, he
mean,
is.
that'll break some
He's a
brains
smart
somewhere.
gay.
He really is.
Yeah, he is. He's
He's very
smart, tough
impressive.
gay. I think Trump's toughest economic people, his toughest negotiators, are all gay.
Yeah, and that's great. I don't,
No,
I
it's awesome.
that's what's amazing is the right gets called, homophobic, transphobic, and all that, and we're like, so he's gay, okay? I don't
Exactly. And
care,
Trump's doing the Hindu ceremony in the theater. And I'm
right?
like, yes. Remember when they had, what was so amazing? The RNC, remember the convention was
Yeah,
so, and I go, dude, I am home. I am
yeah,
politically home.
yeah. It had good energy, and and then they
And
start
I know
calling
there's
it,
a tension with the base, with some of the base, not the base, with the fringe, with the,
yeah,
with, but MAGA is so much more than the Nick Fuentes fringe.
Yeah, I think people think, they've kind of used MAGA as such a just negative word for so long. Oh, they're
Right.
MAGAs, all these MAGAs, but that's just people that want to make our country great again.
Yeah.
I want greatness. I want what my parents, people should be able to buy a home,
It's so
do the
interesting,
things.
Bridge, because you think about the political environment and definitions of Republican and Democrat and progressive and conservative, and what do they really mean today? And then the slogans as well: America first, make America great again. I had no idea until someone told me that they do go back to like Nazi associations or whatever, white power parties. Okay, even if they do, and I think they do, that doesn't mean that that's what they're, that's a relevant fact,
Right.
sure, but that doesn't mean that today those words mean that to the
Exactly.
base.
Well, I don't know how any Democrat can say that, knowing their history with slavery, KKK, civil rights.
Well, I
Should they
never
change
bought
their
the
name?
party switch thing. Like the party switch was real, wasn't it? I mean, people say like I
Uh,
gotta dig into what people say when they say
yeah, I'd
don't
have
be
to dig
fooled.
in.
Yeah, I think wait a minute. I don't know that it's fair to say that the Democrats today
No,
are the
I don't.
party of
Yeah,
the
I think
KKK and
that's
slavery. I think
no,
that's
and I don't
bullshit.
either. But I mean, that's the same way of being like, well, make America great again. Hitler
Right.
said that once. It's like, okay,
Right.
so
That's like saying, okay, Hakeem
Hitler
Jeffries.
did some good things, and I don't know why
Yes,
it's so controversial to say he did a
exactly right.
horrible things. Whatever, he did evil shit, but he built the Autobahn. He put his country back to work, and they
Give
were
them
in
one.
rough shape after World War I.
Right.
So it's like if you understand what led up to Hitler, it was a lot of pain and suffering, and he gave him a little hope. He abused that power or whatever. Again, I'm not saying Hitler was good, just
Right.
so we both
What a
don't
way
get
to end it.
run out of town. Yeah, exactly. But I mean,
It's been a great conversation, and Hitler was good. No,
that'd be the
no,
best
I get
podcast
you. I
ever.
get you. I know, right?
But same
Let's
with Trump. He's probably going to do something I really hate, like another Israel war with Israel, and I'll hate that. That doesn't discount, no taxes on tips and no taxes on overtime, and getting inflation down. Hopefully, other good things will
right.
outweigh because I think it must be a tough job, and I know it's got to be tough right now dealing with all the stuff in the world. I wouldn't want to have it.
No,
So
no
yeah,
kidding.
you're going to make a misstep or two, but
Yep.
is he trying to do good? That should be the litmus test. Are you racist? No, okay, good. I'm going to take you at your word for that. Let's just go back to calming down. Not everything needs to be. I saw Joe Rogan's comment a couple days ago that he's really scared there's going to be a civil war post Charlie Kirk assassination with all the celebrating and all that, because that's the kind of stuff that can spark off more violence.
Absolutely. Oh
And we're
yeah. No.
seeing a lot of violence, and I
Mhm.
hate it. Doesn't feel like the media is calling it balls and strikes exactly, because it's been pretty one-sided so far.
Well, I'm trying my best. You see me out there calling out the far left for years now, calling out the far
Yeah,
left and the react. I was all over them, joining everyone, being all over them for all reasonable people. That is, for the reaction you saw from many people to Charlie Kirk's horrific assassination. I've also been all over the people who are harassing Erica Kirk. Um, Look, let the
yeah,
investigation play out, but Jesus Christmas, like, can you not judge her, for
yeah,
so all of that. So I'm doing my best, and I will say in closing that yes, I ultimately agree that I think. Do I believe Trump is willing to push the boundaries of what's appropriate? Yes. Do I think he's enriching himself? No question. But do I think he's racist? No. Do I think he loves America? Yes. So you put all that together, and I put my I cast my lot in with him, right? Whatever you say, and I put all my eggs in that basket, and I'm here now, and I'm hoping for the best. And I'm not willing to judge him just yet. I mean, we're not even a year in to the second term, so it's a tumultuous time, like we said. I hope things get better. You hear for years being online, we're
yeah.
about to have this huge crash and this and that. It's like the shit is real. This is real life, and we are hoping for the best, and it's very serious. And so, but at the end of the day, ultimately, I have to stand and say I voted for Trump. I support him. I believe, in him. I don't believe in having him for president for life, but I think he was the right choice in 2024.
Yeah, yeah, I think that's all fair. And I hope and pray if another president gets in there on either side that they put the country first, not Ukraine. Think all the babble we had to hear about Ukraine and sending 100 million every week, and that just wears on people that are struggling. And that
Mm,
we had that with Biden for years, and then it, possibly escalation. They started talking about World War III, and it's like, where are
mm,
we?
right.
While we've
Mm,
got illegal stabbing people and killing people and raping
mm,
women and killing women and breaking our laws and just streaming into the country when people can't afford groceries and inflation's 9%. That's a
yeah.
horrible mix for people. That means it's a tinderbox.
Mm,
And so a few bad events could really send it the other way. And I don't, people talk about civil war. Yeah, I don't think they'd like a civil war. I definitely wouldn't. And I'm armed. I know how to survive in the mountains and stuff. But
mm,
I don't think people, go look at some Ukraine videos. That's
right.
horrific stuff.
Right.
So I just hope that everybody can start relaxing a little bit, and we'll see what happens. But the biggest issue for me is, again, just do something for the American people. Send out the $2,000 tariff stimmy checks.
Hmm.
That would help. It's not a solution, but I think that would bring everything down a notch a little bit, and just be like, hey, this government's actually trying to help us for a change.
Yeah, and it's so interesting how at the end of the day, I think I think the majority of MAGA, not to get lost in the labels that we don't really care about anyway, but is on your level, which is it's not so much about the ideology or political philosophy as much as what are you doing for me, man?
Yeah,
You know?
I've paid a lot of taxes, as I'm sure you have too, and you go into any big city, the roads are trash, the services
Right.
aren't good, and people, why do we have 50 million on SNAP and EBT that work full time? That seems a little screwed up when we're sending billions to another country.
Right.
So I think we have to address those. And I think the first president to even mention it in my lifetime has been Trump. Maybe I'm sure
Hmm.
they've all said something. We're going to balance. Clinton actually did balance the budget for a short time, but he
Hmm.
also sent American manufacturing jobs to Mexico and Canada and
Yep.
different places.
Sure
So,
did.
uh,
Right.
yeah, we should be living in the future, Brian. We should be living in the cleanest, most modern, most easiest society in
Ridge,
history.
next week I'm interviewing an American journalist who's been in China for 10 years. And I can't wait to talk to him. And he's gonna pitch, I think, state socialism to me, or whatever.
Oh, that'll be interesting.
It'll be really interesting. Yeah,
Yeah, I'll definitely tune in for that, man. That should be really
yeah.
good.
It's so seriously. Thank you so much. It's super helpful for me to understand the um, yeah, the perspective.
Sure.
Trump. I guess the point is we have a broken system. Our system
Yeah.
is broken, and Trump identified it. He's a different kind of guy, and that's kind of where we are right now. To be
Yeah.
determined.
Well, and I've got a lot of friends that were diehard Trump, and they're so pissed off right now because not enough things they want to get done is done. And I just have to remind them, dude, it's not been a year yet. I said
Right.
we've taken decades to screw all this up, and I hope we get
Exactly.
the time to fix it. That's why I hope
Right.
a
Right.
Vance or somebody comes in after Trump, because otherwise, I think this is all just uh, a band aid until the Dems rip it off and say, "Yep, back to CRT, back to DEI,
Hmm.
fire all the white
Globalism.
people." Yeah, globalism, exactly. I could talk a lot about that. Sheesh.
Yeah.
And I think, just look at Europe, look at the UK. Is that what we want? Because we're on the brink. We're serious. If Kamala had won, we'd be looking like Paris right now, not in a good way.
Right.
But I appreciate you having me on, man.
Absolutely,
Listen to me
man.
ramble. We'll have to do it again sometime, and I'll get a good camera. I've got one somewhere. It's really nice. I just don't know.
You know what? I think I like looking at your dog anyway.
I
So
got you. He was a good dog. He actually we had to put him to sleep a couple weeks ago. It's really sad. He had
oh,
cancer,
oh
so
man.
he's my
How
buddy.
old?
He was 8, so
Well,
had him since he was 5 weeks old. But
well,
he
you
was
got good
starting
8
to.
years. It's not long enough, but
Yeah,
you did the right
he
thing.
had a good last couple months. He was jacked up on steroids, eating steaks. So
Nice. Good for
we had
him.
good times.
Awesome. Well, I got my Rosie, and she's like 3.5 almost now, and Pitbull half pit, and I know they all die of cancer, is what I've been told,
Yeah,
and so I'm
same with
hoping
labs.
for the longest life possible.
Yeah, just
She's
love
the
on them.
best,
That's all you can do. We
right?
uh,
All right,
love
Ridge.
my dogs.
Thank you so much again. It's really been great for me, and let's do it again.
Same. Let's do it again, brother. I appreciate
Okay,
you.
man. Absolutely. Take care.
All right, you too.
Later.